All eyes are on the refugees living at Johannesburg Central Methodist Church, and they are supposed to vacate the property or face eviction. The court's national leadership decided earlier to clear the building when Bishop Paul Verryn's term as superintendent ends today. Now, for more on the situation, we're going back to our reporter Aldrin Sampier, who is live from the CBD in Johannesburg. Aldrin, so good to have you back. Thank you so much. We're having a conversation and we're having difficulty just hearing each other, but I understand that you have actually a guest standing by, and there's a human rights activist right next to you.
Yes, I'm standing with Walter Sefiri. He's the guy who led the residents of the occupants of the church to the High Court to try and seek an urgent interdict to force the church to stop the evictions and not evict these people today and allow them more time actually to get all their belongings together and find an alternative. Walter, you met with the acting judge today, or rather the judge who was trying to hear this urgent matter. What did he say?
Just to correct the whole thing, we met with the peer of the judge, intended for the attention of the judge, or, the intervention of the judge. Is that the fact is that, in terms of procedural legal requirement, we don't satisfy what is expected in terms of the provision thereof. That is, we need to have the names and details, the full particulars of our respondents and defendants. So we are here to try and gather some information from the bishop. So we contemplate or anticipate with optimism that we'll get such a cooperation.
But now the problem is, when we were speaking earlier on, is that it seems as though that won't happen today. And considering that tomorrow is New Year's Day, it's a holiday, it might only happen on the 2nd. And today is the deadline to get these people out.
Unfortunately, it's a gross anomaly. It's a sent indictment to inform, those that perceives this to be a deadline. There's no such thing such as an ultimatum or a deadline. A deadline would simply imply that there is an unlawful, arbitrary eviction that has been taking place or that is taking place.
You might argue that it's unlawful, but the church says it believes that it is their building and they want to reclaim the building. I was speaking to a couple of church members as well, and some of them have actually been protesting for years outside this church and the one in Braamfontein, saying that this church needs to be reclaimed.
Yes, it's true. Every institution, has to, be restored to its former glory. We understand that the church has a reputation, and also a social standing of some sort. But in this instance, people, were not properly informed. This has never been properly coordinated nor communicated. Neither does it have any appealing broader impact, to all members. To those that are resident in this church at this instance. So people may protest. We understand people have the right to protest. They are at liberty to do that. But no man or no owner ever has unlimited absolute entitlement and right to do as he pleases, nor to exercise his discretion as he pleases. Every person's rights is subject, to the limitations in terms of our constitution and also in terms of the law.
Now, we understand that Bishop Paul Verryn and his team have managed to secure 2 other buildings, one center in Soweto, the other one in GP's Town, but you have a concern around that.
Correct, yes. That is somewhat rudimentary. That is an incomplete exercise, unfortunately. We appreciate the gifts that the church is trying to, profess to the welfare of children, of women, and of the disabled people. The unfortunate glaring anomaly and controversy, which is quite utopian and abortive, is that members of the male species, most of them, unfortunately, they are not being given priority. That's what, unfortunately, will wreak havoc and sow confusion in the midst, of the whole thing that the church is trying, to achieve.
So for you guys, what happens now?
For us now, we have engaged one member of the church. He's an official by the name of Ubuntu. I've asked him and interrogated the merits of the whole allegation that, is there any contemplated or anticipated eviction intended against the people? He said there's no eviction People have to live at their own volition, out of their own free will and goodwill. But at this point in time, mechanisms and measures that are being devised or are in place, to shelter women, children, and the disabled. But I'm saying, what about the concern of members of the male species? Because this will inflame them. Unfortunately, it will wreak havoc. It will sow confusion, division, frustration, despondency, and also a dehumanizing element, which is a serious blight, on the face of humanity. South Africa, it has to be borne in mind, it is the home of benevolence of humanity. And, as a result of that, we'll espouse, all the things that has been achieved by our forefathers, our former president, Dr. Nelson Rolihlahla Madiba, that no man can ever be deprived of his property, or any person or whatsoever, whether lawful or unlawful, can be evicted without an order of court. As we speak, the whole accommodation does not satisfy the requirements and the capacity of the people as we have at this point in time. So it is another challenge that has to be visited and that has to be re-examined. The church, we have invited the official of the church to come to the fore so that at least we have a round table negotiation, so that he accommodates those who unfortunately will be driven to squalor, to despondency, who will be downtrodden, who will be downcast, and who will be left destitute and homeless.
Okay, thank you so much, Walter.
Pleasure.
Well, Tumelo, there you have it. Quite an unfortunate situation here where you find that women and children have been classified as vulnerable, and those are the people that will be taken to the two centers, the one in Soweto as well as the one in Jippistown. And unfortunately, for the males here, they'll have to make their own, trying to find their own accommodation. It's yet to be seen, though, if that court action, should it go ahead on the 2nd of January, if there will be any success, and what happens. The other question is, what happens in between that time? What happens from today up until the 2nd, up until the court has a ruling on whether these people should be evicted and whether they should find alternative accommodation?
You're raising very important questions and points there, Aldrin. And just listening to the conversation you had with Walter, he did mention that they approached the spokesperson to the judge of the High Court, and they also spoke to another representative by the name of Ubuntu. But the question is, has Home Affairs been consulted in this regard?
It's still unclear if Home Affairs has been consulted in this regard, but from the people that we've spoken to, some of the church members as well as some of the refugees here, is that Home Affairs hasn't really been able to help them. But when I spoke to Bishop Paul Verryn, he has a different take on it, and saying that actually Home Affairs has been able to help some of these refugees. And the unfortunate situation is that most of them don't have the documents here, so some of them are actually illegal immigrants. They are in the country legally. I was speaking to another guy earlier this morning, and he was saying that he doesn't know what to do, considering that he doesn't have the proper documentation. And this, the Central Church, was his sanctuary. It was his haven. It was a place to hide. It was a place for him to lay his head, and it was a home for him.
All right, thank you so much. That was our reporter, Aldrin Sampier, joining us live from the Johannesburg Methodist Church.